Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made a card with the Cottage Wreaths dies and Cottage Wreath bundle is what I'm trying to say, which includes the stamp set and dies. I think that's what I started to say and then just like mushed it all into one sentence. So it is a stamp set bundle that is in the upcoming July to December 2022 mini catalog. Whoop, hold on. Sorry, you don't. Golly, I couldn't get myself to be quiet on there. Yikes. Hopefully the rest of the video goes better. All right, so we've got the Cottage Wreaths dies. And hey, Pam, thanks for joining. Glad you're here. And hopefully, I don't know if anybody else is hopping in or not, but glad you're joining today. So this is a stamp set we're going to be playing with. Oh, I see Karen is here as well. And Carol, thanks for joining. So this is the stamp set. I love it. Love all the layering pieces. Love that there are dies that coordinate with it. So this kind of takes you from everything from fall through Halloween, Christmas, and then just kind of a general wreath set that you can use probably for summer too. I'm sure that there are all sorts of things that we can come up with to use with it, but we've got the little holly leaves here. There are some regular leaves here, the kind of greenery that you normally see on a winter wreath, a pine type greenery. There's a spider, bow, kind of a stick wreath, and then we've got the regular wreath, and then just again some greenery pieces, acorns, holly berries. Again, just a good stamp set, and it is a photopolymer, so that means you can see through it to stamp with it pretty easily. Hey Vicki, thanks for hopping in, and Michelle as well, and sorry if I missed anybody else hopping in. These are the country wreath dies, and I knew I was going to forget, so I wrote the name down. And again, great die set, coordinates with the stamp set. So we've got a couple of them that cut out the leaves, some that will cut out the little holly, or I'm sorry, these are the pine bough little pieces. There's some that will cut out the holly leaves. There's one for the spider. There's one for the acorn. The holly berries. This one cuts out the stamped wreath that we're using today. This one cuts out the kind of twiggy looking wreath. And then there are a couple of layering dies as well, and a pretty bow die that we're going to be using today, as well as a couple of greenery pieces. So it is a really good Stampin' die set, and hopefully you will get it because you're going to like it. So hey Catherine, shopping with your granddaughter. All right. And it's on your wish list. So one other thing that we used today, or I used today, is one of these stitched rectangle dies. I used the fourth largest one here, or the middle die, fourth smallest, I don't know what you want to call it, to cut out my sentiment layering on here. So that's kind of the only thing that we used for dies on it today, which is kind of strange. So, all right. Couple things before we get going. My Designer Series paper shares are actually closing on Thursday, the 30th of June. As far as people joining them, I will be ordering everything early on the 1st of July on Friday. So if you are interested in joining my share, make sure that you hop in and get signed up so that you can get your sampling of all the pretty new papers. So again, it's just a good way to get a general sampling, a little bit of all of the new pretty paper in the catalog. Details are on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. So again, make sure you're getting signed up by the 30th if you are interested in joining my share. Hey Barbara, thanks for joining. Then we've got our kits collection. Stampin' Up! Has their kits collection. Buy one, get one 50% off through the end of June. So again, just a couple more days on this. And it is all of the kits in the kits collection. These are totally separate from the paper pumpkin kits, so there's no subscription required or anything like that. Anyone is able to purchase them, and there's a section of the online store that is called the Kits Collection, and that's where you'll find these. And one thing to know is that the more expensive of the two kits is the 50% off one, so that's always a good deal. So hey Kay, thanks for joining, and Barbara as well. And then one last thing. Stampin' Up! The retiring January to June 2022 mini catalog items. Last day that anything that is retiring will be available is the 30th of June, and everything is while supplies last. So I know quite a few of the stamp sets are selling out, so make sure you're getting out there and getting anything that you're wanting off that retiring list before it goes away for good on Thursday. So let me know if you have questions. Again, all of that's linked up in my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com, and it'll be on there again tomorrow when this post goes live, so hopefully you'll be able to check it all out then. Hey, Danette and Kay, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's get going. I have a So Saffron card base, and this is a piece of the Gingham Cottage Designer Series paper. It is a 12 by 12 pack, and it is an enormous pack. I think it's 48 sheets, so it's a huge pack of paper. And it's all different gingham designs and colors. Everything, again, there are colors that coordinate with Christmas. There are fall colors. There are Halloween colors. There are black and whites. So, I mean, it's a huge, huge pack of paper. Lots of pretty plaids in it. So I just cut a piece of the paper, the So Saffron version. And as you can see on the back side, some of the plaids are wider, some are narrower. I decided I wanted a little bit smaller look on the background of mine, so I went with the smaller plaid. So, all right, I have got the piece of Designer Series paper is cut to about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it should fit, covering the entire card front. And again, all the details will be on my blog post tomorrow, and I will link it up in my description, or link it up in the description of this video, so that you'll be able to find it tomorrow if you want to go back and take a peek at any of the measurements or anything like that. It'll all be on my blog post tomorrow. So using a little liquid glue to give me a little, whoop, that's not what I wanted. That totally slid it right off center. That's why I used the liquid glue. So I have a little second to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. And hey, Pam and Diane, thanks so much for joining. All right, so we've got a liquid glue, put that down on the card front. The next thing, I did a little bit of die cutting ahead of time, and I'm hoping that I won't regret this and I won't stamp it all sorts of crazy. But I did cut, again, it's the 4th largest of the stitched rectangle dies. I used it and just cut a piece of basic white cardstock, and we're going to stamp and heat emboss the sentiment on there. So let me grab my Versamark ink. Actually, let me start with the embossing buddy, which, yay, we now have an embossing buddy back, and I'm excited about that. The embossing buddy helps to take any kind of oils, fingerprint type things off of the cardstock that you're working with. And it helps so that your embossing powder sticks only to the image that you're stamping rather than to all over the place on your card. It takes the static out of it. It takes the oils and things off the paper from your hands. So it is a great tool. And it is in the upcoming mini catalog in an embossing pack with a couple of other items. So definitely get your hands on that if you don't have one already. So I've got the sentiment from the Cottage Wreaths stamp set, and I'm inking it in Versamark ink. And I'm going to try to stamp it straight here and where I want it to be on this piece of basic white cardstock. Put the lid on that and set that aside. All right. And then I've got gold embossing powder from the Metallics embossing powders. How long would the embossing buddy last? I have had one. I've been a demonstrator for 10 years, and I have one from before I started as a demonstrator that is still working just fine. So it'll last a really long time, if that's what you're asking. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what you'd have to do with it to make it not work anymore, because it's just a little piece of cloth that is filled up with cornstarch, and it lasts a really, really, really long time. So, all right, so I've got that gold embossing powder, and then I've got my heat tool. Stampin' Up! Heat tool has 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying, so if you're doing something like watercoloring or using an ink that takes a little bit longer to dry and you want to speed it up a little bit, you can use the level 1 setting. The level 2 setting is for heat embossing, and that is the setting that I have it set to right now, so that gets a little bit hotter, and it will then emboss the image for you. So let me see, hopefully this is heating up here as I'm yapping. And once it starts to turn shiny and smooth, then you know the embossing is done. You don't want to overheat it because you can actually burn your embossing powder. And you also want to give it just a second after you get done embossing for it to cool down, so that you don't accidentally smudge it, because you can actually smear it as well, because it's kind of a plastic material. And if you touch it when it's too hot, then you'll end up smearing it and it'll be a mess. So, oh, I'm glad that you like it, Catherine. Thanks so much. All right, I did a little bit of cutting of some cardstock ahead of time too. And I've got a piece of So Saffron cardstock that is cut just a hair bigger than my rectangle, which it measures about 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. And we're going to adhere these two together with some Stampin' Seal. And then we're going to add another layer of Sahara Sand cardstock underneath that. All right, so we'll go ahead and stick these two together. The Sahara Sand is cut a little bit bigger, and that one, it measures about 4 1/2 by about 3 1/8 across by 4 1/2 tall. So again, it'll give it a little bit of a kind of a framing border around it, which I thought looked kind of nice with the pretty wreath that we're going to be doing here in just a second. And again, I'm just trying to get this so that it's fairly centered and straight. And then we are going to go ahead and just stick it on the card front with Stampin' Seal as well. And again, going to do the same thing where we're going to try to get it centered and fairly straight. And hopefully we got both here. I don't know, sometimes the grid lines on the background are a blessing and sometimes they're a curse because you think you have it straight and then you don't, and then it looks all sorts of crazy. So, all right. So I did do a little bit of die cutting ahead of time and stamping because it was kind of all the same process, and I didn't figure you needed to sit and watch me do all of it, same thing over and over. One thing I did want to show you about the wreath image from this stamp set. I don't know if you can see there's a blue dot that I've put actually on the back side of the stamp. And when you look inside the case, you will see that there's a little arrow here on the case, and there's also one on this image as well. There's a little arrow here. So what that means is that if you line up your little arrow, you put a mark on the back of your stamp, and then you line up your little arrow with the arrow that they have here on your die set, it should make it pretty easy to line up the wreath without having to twirl it around 500 times and figure out where exactly everything goes. So hopefully if I did everything correctly, this will work right, and it'll be a fairly easy thing for you to see that they line up. And actually, because the wreath isn't perfectly round, there are a couple things that stick out here and there. Just know that if you put the little blue dot on the back, hopefully that'll help you to line everything up. The only thing is you kind of have to remember which area you have put the little blue dot when you go to stamp it. So I've got Sahara Sand ink, and I'm going to put the little blue dot so that it's kind of generally facing this side of the cardstock. And if I forget that, y'all will have to help me remember, and I'm hoping that I didn't do it totally backwards, which I'm... All right. We're going to do a little bit of additional stamping before I go and take this to the die cutting machine. So I have got leaves here, and again, these are all from the Cottage Wreaths stamp set, and I have pumpkin pie ink. So, hey Bonnie, glad you're watching over your lunchtime. All right, and I've got once I'm going to stamp in full strength pumpkin pie, and then a second time stamped off. So we kind of get two different colors of pumpkin pie, but not really. And then we're also going to stamp one of the little acorns. And then ahead of time, I had stamped the leaves in So Saffron ink already, and a couple of additional acorns so that we had enough to fill up our wreath without having to have you sit here and watch me cut things 500 times. So, all right, so we got soft suede is what I stamped the acorn in. And then I'm going to grab the wreath dies, and hopefully, like I said, if I didn't mess this up, so my little arrow is here. So if I remember correctly, this was generally the direction where my arrow was facing. And did I mess it up? Nope, I think I actually did it right. So that makes it fairly easy. So I've got my arrow over here. I knew the blue dot was over here on the back of my stamp when I stamped it, so that made it pretty easy to put it together and do the die cutting. Not that you can't spin it around if you want to, that just makes it a little bit easier. So all right, then we've got the little acorn die there, that one is. And they actually have two sets of the leaves dies on here, so we can do two of these at the same time as well. So I'm going to be off screen for 1 second, and I'm going to do a little bit of die cutting, and I'll be right back. So I appreciate that, Bonnie. Thanks so much. All right. Oof. Hopefully I'll get this all done in one swing. Sometimes I risk it and do it all at the same time. Sometimes I run them through one at a time. Today I'm feeling a little brave, but we shall see. Because usually when I start feeling a little brave, then all of a sudden I make a mess of my die cutting. So, all right. Almost there, almost there. Try and make sure everything is lined up. And just when I think it is, then I look and realize it is not. All right, try it one more time. Let me get all the dies put over here on my magnetic sheet before I lose track of those. And then I've got my die cut wreath and my little die cut leaves and my little acorn ready to go here. All right. Then I grabbed some Stampin' Dimensionals and I adhered the wreath to the card front to start with. Well, these are my little half Stampin' Dimensionals. So if you use whole ones, you certainly can do that. I just like my little half ones better, and everybody has their own preference on that. Some people, I had somebody say, I can hardly stand to watch you cut those dimensionals in half. And I'm like, I don't know, it's not that traumatic to me. So if you don't like it, you have to look away when I'm chopping them up. So, all right, so I've got my little wreath here, and I don't know that it really matters how I put it on here. I don't know. If I'd stamped a boo-boo on it, then I might put it so that the boo-boo is over here, since this is the area I'm going to cover with my little leaves, but it's all good. So, I'm glad you like the colors. So I don't know, like I said, I started with the So Saffron for the background and then kind of just went from there. I love these colors. I love fall, so anything fall, I'm good. So, all right. Hey, Daryl, I'm glad you're liking the DSP too. So, all right, so now I've got about a bazillion glue dots that I'm going to be sticking on here. And I'm just going to start adding leaves in here. I don't know that I really have any rhyme or reason as to how I put them together. I just sort of started sticking leaves on in a way that I thought looked okay. And, kind of tried to build out, tuck in a few of the acorns in here and there. And I put one of the acorns in upside down. I went back and forth and couldn't decide if I liked it upside down or right side up better. I put it in upside down so you guys can tell me it's that one. So if you think it looks silly upside down, tell me now. And I will not put it upside down for this card that we're working on. But like I said, I don't know. I started sticking them around and I put it in right side up, and I didn't like the way it looked right side up. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. So, all right, so I'm tucking in leaves here as I go. The one little advantage to the glue dots over liquid glue is that you can kind of pry them up and stick things underneath if you need to, like I just did right there, where liquid glue, if you prefer to use that, you definitely can. It just makes it a little more challenging. You have to be a little better than I am at laying things out before you stick it down with your liquid glue. So, all right. Not upside down, or no, upside down looks great. Okay. So I'm glad that like I said, I went back and forth, but I thought it looked weird sticking up there at the top, not upside down. So, and I love the acorns too. I thought they were really cute. So it just adds so much to the little fall wreath that I was making here. So, all right, putting in my leaves pointing the other direction. Let's see, what have I all got left for colors here? And take one of the yellow ones and stick it in over here. Whoop, that stuck to my finger and not to the card. And put the orange one in. All right. Now I'll probably forget to put the little upside down one in there after all my talking. So sometimes I do that too. Get busy yakking and then I forget what I've done and haven't done. A couple more to glue dot on here. And this is basically three stamps worth of leaves, if that makes sense. So it's a bundle of 3 leaves, and the dies cut 3 leaves at a time. So it's actually pretty quick to cut out, especially since there are 2 of the leaf dies. Makes it really quick to cut them out. So, all right, tuck in that last little leaf, and I'll tuck in my little acorns. This one down here underneath the leaves, maybe. There we go, kind of tucking that one in the bottom. And then we'll put the one upside down near the top, and then I'll add the bow, and we'll almost be done. So, all right, so I'm going to take this one and tuck it in up here under my leaf, maybe. There we go. Come on, Amy, fingers work. There it goes. Okay. The last piece of die cutting that I did ahead of time, this is from the Rose Gold 12 by 12 specialty sheets. And there are 3 different types of rose gold foil in that pack. And this one is kind of the more matte look, if that makes sense. Anyhow, I looked at putting a shinier gold one on there, and I actually think that I thought the matte on the rose gold actually looked nice, even with the gold, even though it's not technically rose gold on here. I thought it worked well with it. And I agree, Pam. I think it's a beautiful die. So, all right, now don't fall off your chairs, but I am actually going to pull out the mini glue dots for this one, which I very rarely do, but they fit perfectly on the back of the bow, and maybe Stampin' Up! Made the bow so that worked, and so that I'd stop complaining about the mini glue dots being all the wrong size, or mini glue dots, mini Stampin' Dimensionals, sorry. So pulled out 2 of the little mini Stampin' Dimensionals, and they actually fit perfectly on the back of here. And I used the Stampin' Dimensionals, and I kind of put them a little bit towards the outside because I'm hoping to actually catch the wreath that I've got here rather than sticking it to the pile of leaves. And if it sticks to the pile of leaves, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I was just trying to minimize the bulk on it, so I was trying to stick it to the wreath rather than the layered up leaves, which I think we got. All right. A couple last little things here are some of the champagne rhinestone basic jewels. And I'm just going to take 3 of those and stick them sort of randomly here around the wreath and on the card front. And yeah, and again, I know that these are champagne and they probably shouldn't match the rose gold and the gold, but I thought they all kind of worked together. I thought they were similar enough tones that I could get away with using them. So let me smoosh these down and make sure they're stuck well, and I'll hold it up and let you all decide. Again, I don't know what you think about the mixed golds and you know, with the champagne in there, but I thought the colors worked well. And actually, to me, these two are almost the exact same color, and I think these work with copper too, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just colorblind, I don't know. So the inside of the card I kept pretty simple. I just took the little bit of trimming that I had here. This I'd cut into a 6x6 piece or 6x12 piece, and so when I cut it down, it leaves me with about a ½ inch of leftover designer series paper, and I don't want that to go to waste, so I just use it on the inside of my card. This is a piece of basic white cardstock that I've got cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And this DSP technically measures 4 1/4 by about a ½ inch. So there is a little bit of overhang, but I feel like that helps me to kind of get it stuck onto the cardstock panel straight. And maybe it's just my imagination, but I feel like it helps me having a little bit of a lever there. And then I just trim it off. And then we'll use a little Stampin' Seal to adhere this to the inside of the card base. All of these new products are actually going to be available beginning on Friday, the 1st of July, which I can't even believe that it's the 1st of July already on Friday, but it is. So the new catalog is starting then. So anything that you're seeing me use here that is not in one of the current catalogs will be available starting on Friday. Using the bone folder to do a quick crease on the top, and that is it. So it is a beautiful wreath set. And again, I can't wait to play with it for Christmas and for Thanksgiving, and kind of it's all things fall, and I love it. So cannot wait for you all to get it as well. But again, don't forget, this will all be available beginning on the 1st of July on Friday. I will plan to be back on the 1st of July on Friday around 2 o'clock Eastern Time with a video for you out of my YouTube channel. And then I'll be back here around 2 o'clock Eastern Time next week, Tuesday, back here out on Facebook Live. So let me know if you have questions about anything. Again, I'll be posting all the details on my blog post tomorrow, cardstock cuts and everything. And then I will share that in the video description, so you'll be able to go back and find it later if you want to come back and take a peek. So thanks for watching today. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you soon.